2100, the world's population is projected to reach approximately 10.9 billion. It's also projected that Africa's population of almost 5 billion will make up almost half of this number. Accordingly, 8 out of 10 people in the world will live in Asia or Africa. Although Africa is the fastest growing continent, India will have the highest population increase between 2020 and 2050, therein overtaking China as the world's most populous country by 2024. Even with India overtaking China, Africa's population will more than double in the next 30 years. Many African nations see this as an advantage if properly harnessed by laying the proper infrastructural and economic foundations that will properly scale and harness the benefits of such population growth. Not everyone, however, sees Africa's emerging population figures as a positive. In speaking on African birth rates, foreign observers have openly proclaimed that Africa's birth rate was more of a problem than a blessing. They've even gone as far as suggesting African nations enact population tailoring policies. Some of these policies are in the same vein as China's now notorious one-child policy. Despite these calls from foreign organizations to curb the emerging population, African leaders would be wise in being cautious with overt measures designed to tailor natural population growth, as such measures can have drastic and long-term negative repercussions. Today, we see those negative repercussions manifesting in China due to the mistakes of its one-child policy and population tailoring policies. I'm your host, Ebube Okoli. Welcome to Up Close and Center. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit the bell notification icon so that you will be among the first to know when new content becomes available. Lastly, if you have additional analysis on the topic, please feel free to use the comment section. In this episode of Up Close and Center, we will explore the relationship between China's negative growth projection, the adverse long-term effects of China's one-child policy, and what African nations can learn from China's one-child error. China is currently dealing with a demographic catastrophe. Simply put, China is running out of young people. In the last 30 years, China's GDP has grown to $14.3 trillion. Economically, all may seem fine. However, a closer look reveals a flaw in China's growth model. Demographic data reveals that China is in the midst of a severe population decline. China's fertility rate is dropping, Chinese are living longer, and the workforce is diminishing. China is unique in that the basis of the nation's economy is its young workforce. Accordingly, the current demographic trend is causing serious alarm. From 1950 to the early 1980s, China's population was growing at an amazing pace, similar to what many African nations are experiencing today. Population increases pushed the government to institute vast population tailoring control measures. Such measures included the now infamous one-child policy. To enforce the law, women were reportedly forcefully sterilized and fined for having too many children. Simultaneously, health sector improvements increased life expectancy in China. The combination of population tailoring and the higher life expectancy drove down the number of births per woman. In short, China's one-child policy worked, and it worked extremely well. Presently, however, the long-term effects of the population tailoring measures are coming back to haunt the state. The one-child policy, along with a strong preference for sons, resulted in there being 120 boys for every 100 girls in China. Furthermore, in 1966, China's fertility rate was 6.5. In 2016, China's fertility rate had dropped to just 1.6. This means that China's fertility rate is currently below the required replacement rate of at least 2.1 children per family. Replacement rate is important because the replacement level fertility is the level of fertility at which a population exactly replaces itself from one generation to the next. Sub-replacement fertility is a total fertility rate that, if sustained, leads to a new generation being less populous than the older previous generation in one given area. If a sub-replacement fertility trend is sustained, this results in a population decline and potential extinction. It's estimated that hundreds of millions of births were prevented by the policy. This effectively put China on a downward population trend. Thus, if China's downward population trend continues, there simply won't be enough young people to support both the economy and the older generations who continue to live longer and longer. The number of Chinese retirees are expected to rise from 120 million in 2013 to 330 million by 2024, therein placing significant strain on the Chinese government and its taxpayers. In 2017, for every one retired person, there were almost 3 working Chinese taxpayers. By 2050, it's anticipated that China will have just 1.2 taxpayers for every one retiree. China has, however, made moves to fix the problem caused by the policy. Some initiatives have included pushing pro-motherhood policies and propaganda in an attempt to encourage women to have more children. Although most of China's worries are in the near future, signs of China's low birth rate are already beginning to manifest themselves in the present. Recently, it's been reported that China has closed over 100,000 elementary schools. China's working class population is expected to lose over 200 million people. That number is more than the working age populations of the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Portugal combined. This fact is important because China's economy is directly dependent on sustaining a large labor pool. Since its working population is the backbone of the Chinese economy, a declining workforce will ultimately stunt GDP growth. It's been predicted that China's workforce will drastically dwindle in size, manufacturing wages will rise, and the Chinese manufacturing sector will lose its competitive advantage. Most analysts agree that China will see negative population growth by 2028. Accordingly, the Chinese population will peak in 2029 and then steadily decline. By the time Africa's population reaches 5 billion, it's estimated that Nigeria will have over 800 million people. The Democratic Republic of Congo will have 384 million. Tanzania will have 304 million. Ethiopia will have 253 million people. Uganda, 218 million. Angola, 204 million. And the Niger Republic will surprisingly have just short of 200 million people. What the African nations need at this current point in time is for each individual nation to leverage their populations, like China, while steering clear of population tailoring policies. A growing population is beneficial in that it can generate economic growth if proper policies are put in place today that are encompassing of a future outlook. In order for the emerging population to be a blessing and not a curse, Africa must ensure the proper investments are made in the agricultural sectors, expand on existing infrastructure with an eye towards future growth and recurring expansion, maintain and expand residential housing estates, ensure that the education budget is growing proportionate to the population growth. A proper African education is paramount, encouraging programs that infuse the young with skills acquisition and an understanding of entrepreneurship. If these measures are pursued with integrity of purpose, Africa's emerging population will be a blessing and not a burden. This concludes our broadcast of Up Close and Center. As always, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell icon so that you will be alerted when new content becomes available. Furthermore, please use the comment section to further any analysis you may have on this topic. Thank you for your time and your commitment to the continent.